Welcome to another episode of Eco Talk Rewired. It's been a little bit of a while since we've done one of these, so let me explain why. We've been really busy. We've been really busy this summer, and yes, I want to apologise for the inconsistency, but it's been pretty crazy. Trying to get myself and Neil in the same room has been almost an impossible task. So anyway, let's jump into this episode of Eco Talk Rewired because an awful lot's happened in the last few months. We've got a new Labour government in place. We've got a new First Minister in Wales. There's been all sorts of political shenanigans going on, and we're not going to go into the politics of things. We're here to sort of look at the eco landscape and what's going to happen going forward. So as we know, Labour are now here and running the country, and they've made some big green pledges, and obviously they want to accelerate the whole net zero and generate our own power. So the Great British Energy Company, that's their key. They're looking to drive that forward to reduce the cost of energy and making us less reliant as a country on the likes of Russia and other places, which isn't a bad thing. And I think, without me getting political myself, it was one of the things I did favour about the Labour manifesto at the time was the idea of our own British energy company. I think it's a really good idea for our own energy security and things like that. So I think that's a good idea. So I know this week Keir Starmer's been in Wales with our new First Minister, Eluned Morgan. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Talking about the opportunity in Wales and how Wales is becoming its own mini powerhouse. And Wales, if you don't know, has actually had its own energy company or energy organisation for the last 12 months and making some good steps. So they've been in Wales chatting about how they're unlocking, working with the Crown Estates to unlock more seabeds to get more wind offshore to help power around 1 million homes. So that's quite exciting stuff here in Wales. But I think, from a positive point from Labour's pledge for green energy is the fact that they have this big commitment to warm people's homes, but I still think there's more. I still think that, in my opinion, I've been in this industry 15 years. We're just getting it wrong still. I still think Labour are getting it wrong. We're still putting a huge amount of focus on heat. And what's been the biggest part of people's energy bills? Electricity. And you might say this because we're solar installers, but it's not just because we're solar installers. It just makes complete logical sense. We're still, forcing and ramming heat pumps down everyone's throats. And I just don't think it's the right way, because in the end, we've still got infrastructure issues. We've still got problems with, the grid, the network capacity. And what we're doing, adding more and more, products that just sucking the life out of the grid, and we haven't got the capacity. So I keep saying this, and I feel like I've been like a stuck record for the last 10 years. We should be generating power first. That's what we should be doing, is generating power. So I think it's time I need to write another letter, because I've done it in the past to David Cameron, when he was Prime Minister, on various things. But I think it's time, and especially now as I'm the national president for Wales of the Federation of Master Builders, to share my thoughts with Keir Starmer and Eluned Morgan, what I believe is the answer to helping people reduce their bills. Yes, we need to make homes more efficient, and that's an important thing. But what really rocketed over the last few years was energy, but it was more specifically electricity. Electricity went through the roof. And how can we help people with electricity bills? Solar panels. So I still think there's an awful lot more can be done by central government, Welsh government, to encourage and help incentivise solar PV as a primary. And this is the key, is making solar the primary. I don't think you should be able to have a heat pump unless you've got solar panels. It just doesn't make sense. It's the same with an electric car. I think people should have solar panels before they can have an electric car, because if you've got solar panels, you can have free fuel for your car. You can't go generating free petrol or diesel for your car, but if you've got solar panels, you can generate free electricity to run your car. It just makes sense. The start of this whole journey, and I've been saying this for about 10 years, is solar. Everything starts with solar. And I just feel in this country we're getting it backwards. We're just going down the wrong way. We've got the best intentions as a country, but we're going about it the wrong way. All homes should have solar panels to help generate power at the source. Like I've said, the infrastructure in the UK is really, really poor. So let's generate power at the source where you're using it. Anything spare then can go to the grid. But the key is every property should have its own solar generation, so it's looking after itself. So we are becoming less reliant on the grid. So that's my personal opinion, and I think it's time that I do contact Keir Starmer now. He's our new Prime Minister, and Leonard Morgan, who is our new First Minister in Wales, to make them aware of my opinions and my views with being in this sector. I just think the right intentions are there. We're just getting it wrong around. So I think we've got some things we need to do. We need to raise some awareness. But a lot's happened. An awful lot's happened. But I think, on the whole, it's a positive change in the energy landscape. And I think the Great British Energy Company, if we can generate more of our own power here in the UK, being less reliant. I read this week that in parts of Europe, they were energy negative, which means, in theory, the price of electricity to homeowners in Germany and some parts of Europe, in theory, was free because they had so much they couldn't get rid of it. But unfortunately, that doesn't equate to people in their homes paying nothing for their electricity. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the energy landscape, but it just goes to show that Germany have been installing phenomenal amounts of solar over the last couple of years since the Ukraine war, and because of they had this reliance on Russia for gas. They've gone crazy into renewables, and like I said, they've got so much power in place now that they become energy negative. They've got so much power they don't know what to do with it, and in theory, people they're generating it. It effectively becomes free to the homes, but that never gets passed on, because without going into detail, energy is sort of priced in 3 months arrears. So as we know as well, if you're not aware, it's forecasted that energy prices will be going up by around 9% this October, and potentially another further 10% in the new year. Which isn't great for homeowners. It's not great for consumers here in the UK. It's more of a reason to start looking at electricity. Like I've said in this podcast, electricity generation. It's electricity prices which go up the biggest. Gas is still relatively cheap compared to other standing charges, another thing, but the cost, gas is still pretty low. Electricity prices are where it is, and that's where we need to be saving and looking at solar PV to generate as much power as you can, so we are less reliant on the grid and becoming energy secure in our own properties. And that's the key thing, is taking control from the energy companies, so we're not reliant on them as much, because they don't do much for us. So yeah, just be aware. Like I said, energy prices are due to go up, and again next year. They're never going to come down. Let's face it, they've gone up. They're never going to come down. They're going to creep up on and on and on. But the problem is, we're reliant on global pressures. We never know what's going to happen. There could be another war that breaks out somewhere, which can affect energy prices. So again, it's all about securing your own energy needs at your home or your business, because we just don't know and we have no control. So take back control. And solar PV is a really, really good, solid answer to helping people reduce their energy bills. So a lot's happened, awful lot's happened in the last 4 months. I could rabble on all day, but I think it's a positive thing. We've got the Labour government's pledge on the green landscape, and Ed Miliband on the net zero agenda and the decarbonisation. I think he's going to do some great things in this space. So we're watching out, but we are going to be in touch with these guys, making them aware of what we believe is the right way to approach this, especially from a consumer point of view. Maybe not as a UK-wide approach, but certainly I do passionately believe that we're getting it wrong. The UK policy is wrong, and there should be a bigger focus on solar PV as a primary source and a primary technology before anything else is installed, because everything uses electricity. Heat pumps use electricity, car chargers use electricity, everything uses electricity, so it makes sense that we have solar PV installed first. So that's it from this week's Eco Talk. Any questions, drop a comment. Happy to assist. Don't forget to follow us on our other social platforms, and I'll see you soon for another episode of Eco Talk Rewired.